So here's how to use the pen game exporter and the features again that we talked about in class. But just to recap, you roll your mouse over any of them, it'll actually tell you. So right out of the gate, just roll your mouse over something and you'll find out what it is. Now, essentially, the only thing you really need to change is where it is going to be saving to. Okay, and in this case, I've got my outer project, right? So that's that one. This is my Unreal Engine project. And I have, max files in here. We called it assets or something, or whatever else. There's my exports folder. So it's my export folder that I want to dump all of my FBX files to. You want to center nodes because if you remember, we had that wacky thing where, there's my grid center. If I export it here in its location, it'll retain this location, but the pivot's going to be offset. And that's just really bad. It's like if you're doing that to yourself, you're wasting time massively because you won't be able to rotate something around its pivot point. You won't be able to snap things to surfaces. So you're literally just making your lives difficult doing that. So leave this one on. We also have selected only. I'm going to strongly suggest that. I have a lot of stuff in this scene, so I've got tons of objects and all sorts of things that are all separate pieces. I don't want to be exporting them every single time. I just want to grab what I want to export, and I want to be able to export it and fire that thing out. Ignore objects can be handy in some cases. I don't know if I have anything in here. I don't have any in here that are ignored at this point. But if you don't export ignore objects and you prefix your object with ignore underscore, it won't export even if you have it selected. It'll just say, no, I'm not sending that thing out. I'm going to take that out of the list. And then I've got convert units to. We shouldn't have to do that because we should have gone to customize units setup, system unit scale, and we should be in centimeters. Okay, so we shouldn't have to be doing that. FBX is the best choice as well. I just like options. So if I have to do it something for someone else, I can change things up. And then hit export, and it'll export them. So it just exported that object out. It moved it to the center. It exported it, and it moved it back. Okay, so it even rotated it so it was aligned to the world orientation, right, which is right here. Now, one of the things it also does, if you pick individual objects, it will send out that individual object. So if I send that out, it went out. Now, it's using the name of the object. So it's using this name. You want to make sure things are named correctly. The 001 really shouldn't be on there, but it will use that name for the FBX file, and that's what it'll read when it comes into Unreal Engine. So in this case, you can see that the name is correct, SM static mesh, tower 001, pen, and the pen in this case obviously is my initials. It would be your initials on there so we can identify whose is whose come next semester when things get migrated together. You'll also notice this is all in bold, and that's because this has been grouped together. So if I go to group and I go to open, you'll notice it's still got all of its pieces and I can go and affect it procedurally. I can go and change the unwraps on pieces, whatever I need to do. It's all, the stack is still intact, so it's very flexible because I made this guy from this guy. So I wanted it all intact, right? Because I want to be able to bust the thing up. So in this case, the pivot and the name will be taken from the group head. So I'm just going to go group close. So you can see that the pivot is at the bottom. Now, when you first apply a group to something, for instance, if I were to grab these two and go group, and I'll just hit go, you'll see that the group pivot is up in the middle there. That's a bad idea. So I'm just going to go in and grab this front viewport here and grid. You can see I'm building everything on the ground. It makes the most sense. Don't build stuff buried in the ground. It's dumb. Okay, I can just hit insert and I can move that pivot down to the ground. Now, easiest thing is I can just zero it out in Z and it'll drop down in the middle of them. Or if I want to move it somewhere else, I can do that. And the name, of the group head will be what will be exported. This obviously is not correct. And we don't, I don't want those ones grouped together. So hit insert again to get back out of your, working with your pivot. So when I export these with this tool, it will recognize that there's a group head and it will say, oh, okay, so let's export everything in the group to one FBX file. And then the next step will be importing that group into your level and using the correct settings to make sure that it comes in as one piece as opposed to every single piece separated, which what will happen if we use the default settings. I'll cover that in the next video.